sweet compassion when my soul's in need. I find compassion for friends and enemies. My own compassion is where my spirit breathes. Oh.
Live from Santa Barbara, welcome to Compassionate Connection. I'm your hostess, Gigi Amore. The purpose of our show is to share with you how to connect compassionately within ourselves and with others when we choose to learn the language of peace, of compassion. We can transform and enrich our lives and our relationships, and obviously have a more wonderful world. Now tonight I'm really excited. I can't wait to get going. We have Susan Allan back with us. What a blessing. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be discovering the 101 divorce secrets from Susan tonight. So I find that quite enticing. Now let me tell you a bit about Susan Allan, who is America's leading marriage and divorce coach and the founder of Marriage Forum. Susan is the author of 3 books, including 101 Divorce Secrets, A Survival Guide, The Merry-Go-Round, How to Save Your Money, Your Sanity, and Your Life. I love that. Also, Susan is a certified mediator and is certified in Herman Brain dominance used by 90% of the Fortune companies. Her 6-part conversation allows us to create peaceful and cooperative conversations with everyone under every situation, even during separation and divorce. Susan has been seen on Fox News and on hundreds of television and radio shows demonstrating the results we can create when we transform the way we think, listen, speak, and act, and focus on solutions instead of on problems. And Susan offers us a complimentary 1-hour private telephone session so that everyone can transform their business, their family, and their life. Oh, how exciting, Susan. That's quite something. I know your heart is in this.
Yes.
And now I would just like to share with everyone that in 1998, a little personal insight, Susan experienced herself a life-threatening divorce. And at that point, she vowed she would offer a free 1-hour session to everyone who wished to learn the truth about divorce, litigated divorce, and how to avoid these terrible life-changing events. Since then, she has offered her skills and tools to tons of thousands of people and has told the truth about divorce on her website, online, on our show, and in hundreds of newspaper columns. So there you go. By your own experience, by your gained knowledge, we get to
The
explore
truth. The truth. Whether you want to hear the truth or not, tonight you will hear the truth about divorce. Yes.
And that's all we have time for, so it's awesome. It works out perfectly. Well, now we're going to explore the first question I have for you, Susan. Out of curiosity, what % of marriages in the United States actually end in divorce?
You know, it's rather tragic that at the moment about 73% of all marriages end in divorce. Second marriages are less successful than first marriages. Third, fourth, fifth marriages are even less successful than second marriages. So if you believe that you learned everything from your first marriage and divorce, and now you're going to enter into your second divorce, and now you have the answers and you have the solutions, unfortunately, statistics tell us that that's not true. So unless you really learn, unless you really begin to understand yourself in a deeper and more peaceful way, and understand other people and have a lot more information, tragically, statistics tell us that the odds are your second marriage will not be more successful. So please be very careful, and I hope you really listen to what we're saying tonight.
Oh boy, I realize that is very true, Susan. Obviously, we don't want to repeat the past.
For sure. And if we don't have new skills, we are absolutely going to repeat the past, or it's going to be worse.
Another truth, oh my. Thank you, Susan. Well, okay, let's explore what percentage of marriages do you actually believe are really happy marriages?
You know, if it's as much as 20%, I would be surprised. You know, what do you call a happy marriage? A happy marriage is not two people who are staying together for the children. It's not two people who are staying together so that they don't lose their money, their assets in a divorce. It's not because they both love their home and neither one wants to give up the house. That's not what I call a happy marriage. That's a marriage of convenience. A happy marriage is people who feel about each other, if not every minute of every day, then at least intermittently, the way that they felt at their wedding, the way that they felt at their 5th anniversary, 10th anniversary, etc. People who are really capable of connecting to themselves and connecting to the other in a deeply loving way and merging two into one.
Oh, I love that. It sounds simple, but it can get complicated,
That's right.
as
If
you
it
know.
were that simple, we'd all be doing it, right?
Perfect. Oh my. All right, I'm curious why, let's just say that so many people begin out in their marriage loving each other, and of course they can end up in a divorce that's like a war.
Yeah. You know, Fred, if you have a moment to put up the Herman brain dominance map, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Because if you look at the red quadrant, the lower right quadrant, then you'll see that that's all about emotion. So people who are very, very emotional can be very emotional in a positive way and very emotional in a negative way. And so that's really crucial. Thank you, Fred. So it's great to be able to be passionate and loving. Of course, it's not so great if you are reactive and you are frightened, angry, sad, and you express it. The more passionate you are, the more careful you have to be about feeling negative emotions, expressing negative emotions, and basically getting trapped in that loop of negative emotions.
Thank you. How true I know that is.
Don't we? But
Oh,
we've never
my.
done it with each other, you know, as friends. It's really amazing that in
That
all
is.
these years, these 8 and something years that we've been really good friends, we've never had a fight, because even though we're both very lower right brain emotional people, we are not unconscious. We're able to be present and conscious, and we can catch ourselves, which is, that's the key. I mean, if you want to have a long-term friendship or relationship of any kind, and you're a very emotional person, this is what works. You know, the other is excruciating for you and for them. So you want to learn how to do this.
Another truism. We're very fortunate and blessed. Well, let's explore what exactly is the true cost of divorce.
Well, now, if you look at it from a financial standpoint, you know, the reason that people live together, even though they're basically emotionally separated, is during divorce, at least one person is going to be rendered homeless, right? Because if you're living together in a house and you get a divorce, at least one of you is going to leave, be forced to leave. Now, these days, when the economy has not been so strong, I would say that most divorces, unless we're talking about the super rich, the ultra rich, most divorces, they have to sell the house. So let's say you both love the house, neither of you is going to have enough money to take it over. That happens all the time, and that's another tragedy. Then what about stock portfolios and bond portfolios? This is certainly not the time to be selling, you know. Today was a very good day in Wall Street, but basically, you know, it's not a time to be selling. And if you get a divorce, you're going to have to split the assets. And you're going to have to hope for the best. I know people who, you know, they decided one of them would keep the stocks and one of them would keep the bonds. And then a couple of years later, you know, it was a really good idea for one partner and a really bad idea for the other. So the problem is, you know, you can't be like King Solomon. You can't split a baby in half. You can't talk about splitting a baby in half and hope that one parent is just going to walk away. So you either lose your home, you lose an enormous amount of time with your children, and you lose a huge amount of money. You know, what I've invented, which you'll hear about later, allows you to save money. But in California, the average cost of a divorce is $30,000. That's the average cost. So that's something to really consider.
Absolutely. Okay, now, no more money for the moment. What do we need to know if we actually really want to avoid divorce?
Wonderful. Well, you know, it's really interesting. I just want to read you a little something that is part of my new book, which is called A Marriage. If we don't heal the original rift in the marriage, we fight. If we don't learn to create peace together, eventually we separate. If we separate and we still can't make peace, we divorce. If we litigate in America, in some states like California, as I said, the average cost is $30,000. That's only the average cost. For some families, a litigated divorce ruins them. Financially, emotionally, psychologically, and even sometimes physically. And the suffering is unbelievable. Your additional suffering can affect your health, your career, and the entire future of your children. So the key to avoiding divorce is to understand what unconditional love really is. Unconditional love and acceptance for yourself and for your partner. And learn the 6-part conversation. Really learn it. You can look for it on my fan pages, and Gigi will be announcing them at the end of the show. You can look for them and email me, and I'll send you all the information you need. But the 6-part conversation is huge. And then you want to learn Herman brain dominance. You want to learn the 4 different conversations for the 4 different kinds of people.
Thank you, Susan. So I'm curious, what are the keys to avoiding divorce?
Well, you know, if you understand your needs and you're very honest with yourself, you know, if financial security is the most important thing for you, if passion is the most important thing for you, if monogamy is the most important thing for you, if respect and self-respect are the most important thing for you, if a home with a family, children, and that family lifestyle is the most important thing for you, or if your career is the most important thing for you, you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to understand the order of prioritization, and you've got to be straight with the person you're thinking of marrying and really, really vet that person to be absolutely positive that either both of you are very much involved in careers, so no resentment, or both of you are very interested in raising a family and having children, so no resentment, or one of you is committed to this and the other's committed to that, and that's fine with both of you, no resentment. But if you get into a relationship where you just fall in love and you think it's going to work out and you feel passionately about each other, that is one of the keys to real problems. Real problems.
So once again, there's a lot of conversations you need to have to get things out in the open.
Absolutely, and a prenup. Anyone who gets married in this day and age, I don't care if you have nothing today. I don't care if you have absolutely nothing. Because I've seen more tragedies when people don't have a prenup because they don't own any property, they don't have any assets right now, but with a prenup you can make a decision about how it's going to be divided and handled later on. And so this is a very, very important part of it too.
Great approach to avoid disaster.
Yes, be prepared. Just like the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. Just be prepared.
Thank you, Susan. Well, okay, let's think about this one. It's going to be interesting. What are the steps we need to take to have a peaceful divorce?
Well, you have to be able to communicate well enough to mediate your divorce. End of story. If you're thinking about fighting a little bit, there's no such thing. If you're thinking about hiring an attorney and your partner hires an attorney and the two attorneys go after each other and then they drag you into court and the judge decides what's going to happen with your money and your children, it's a disaster. Anyone who thinks that hiring an attorney to get a divorce is going to be a beautiful outcome is, among the millions of people a year who are very disappointed. So sometimes you have no choice. And that's not where you start. Where you start is motivating and inspiring your partner to sit down and talk about the future in a peaceful and cooperative way. See how far you can get at the kitchen table, which has an environment that's, less threatening and more calm. And if that doesn't work out, call me and let's talk about mediation so that you really have the ability to save every penny of yours for your family. The courts don't need your money. They don't need you clogging the court system. You need it. Your family needs it.
Oh, that's wonderful news. So, once again, a phone call could be so informative.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm curious, when couples, let's say, start talking about divorce, is it then too late for reconciliation?
Well, my first choice is that they don't use the D word at all. That's my first choice. So if you really want to keep peace, speak about separation. Bob, it looks to me as if you really have some regrets about the marriage and it just hasn't been working out that well for you and your career has become so important to you and looks like you'd really enjoy having more freedom so that you could travel. You don't have such strict responsibilities here. Have I understood, Bob? So now it's all about Bob. I'm not telling him what he has to do. I'm not telling what I'm going to do. I'm not threatening. And this would usually be an opportunity for Bob to open up about some frustration he has. And, little by little in that 6-part conversation, you talk about, well, it sounds like, from what I'm hearing you say, Bob, and my feelings about it as well, it sounds as if maybe we want to hire a mediator and have a legal separation and then see where that takes us. So that we don't have to do anything dramatic or drastic. We can just move in that direction and give the children enough time to, acclimate to it and just do it in a peaceful and inexpensive way. So that's ideal. That's your ideal scenario.
Thank you. It sounds so grown up.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, what about couples with children and how does that impact divorce?
Well, according to Dr. Frank Zizzo, who's a clinical psychologist who consulted to me for the Marriage Forum for many years, his experience is that if children have peaceful parents, children do fine. So if you're peacefully married, that's great. That's obviously everyone's first choice. And if you're peacefully divorcing, that's fine. And if you're peacefully divorced, that's fine. The trouble is when parents can't make peace. And then they put their children in an awkward position, and the children feel they're being pulled apart, and they don't know what to do about issues of loyalty, and that's a mess. So creating peace within yourself, creating peace with your spouse or your partner is the key for your children.
That sounds beautiful, Susan. We've all known by experience how that can play out a different way.
Yes.
Now, I know that some couples, a lot of couples, stay together because of the children, and I'm curious, can that really work out?
Well, the idea of staying together for the children would mean, what it really means is creating a happy marriage for the children. It doesn't mean cohabiting in a house where you're resentful and silent and you don't talk and you've got this body language that's just screaming, I hate you. So that's not staying together for the children. You stay together for the children, you say to yourself, I want to be here until my youngest child is 18 and goes off to college, and I am going to make this wonderful. And then when my youngest child is in college, then I'm going to reconsider. It's not saying, well, I'm going to get a mistress and she won't get to marry me for the next 4 years. That's not what I call staying together for the children. Because, you know, in families, nobody really keeps any secrets. Everybody always finds out what's going on.
A very good point. Once again, the truth, like it or not.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm sure they don't like it, but better to know what's real.
Thank you for that answer. Now, I'm curious, when parents do actually go through with a divorce, how in fact does that affect the children?
You know, again, it depends on your ability to bring yourself to peace, bring your partner to peace, have peaceful conversations with your children. One of the things that I do train my clients to do is we work together on a script for their children, and usually it's a separate script for each child because each child has different needs. Some children may be very attached to you and your spouse, you know, your husband or wife. Some children may be completely indifferent, not very connected at all, not a big deal to them. Some kids may even be excited at the idea of having 2 homes and 2 sets of clothes and 2 sets of, you know, everything. They may be excited, and the idea that there's going to be a contest to see which parent can take them on better vacations. Some kids really enjoy that. It's exciting for them. So you can't assume what's going to trigger your child. You have to really contemplate this really carefully, and that's one of the things I do with clients all the time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Susan. Now, what about the most, let's say, terrible situations, including domestic violence? What happens then in those divorces?
Well, that's of course such a tragedy, because now the children are really likely to be used as pawns in a very, very dangerous chess game. You know, getting pulled back and forth. And the worst part of it is the fear and or the rage or grief that one or both parents are going through. So this is now a traumatic experience. This is now an opportunity, according to the doctors that I work with, for post-traumatic stress disorder for not only you, the parent, but also the children. So the most important thing is to nip this in the bud, as you would any illness, any problem. If you see that there's a hint of domestic violence, then for heaven's sakes, please contact me and learn how to communicate with your spouse before things get absolutely dangerous. If you see that your spouse is fighting with you and you know that there's nothing really worth fighting about, then you know that your spouse has a problem. You need to learn how to bring that spouse to peace. You can't have a great relationship unless you have the ability to calm yourself down when you feel triggered and calm your partner down when he or she feels triggered. That's the only way that you're going to have a peaceful life for the rest of your life.
Well, that sounds very obvious, of course, to triggered people, disaster, danger. Now, I know with your special divorce model, the divorce form, collaborative model, and as a mediator yourself, what are the key benefits that you do provide?
Thank you. Well, you know, we've talked about a couple of different kinds of divorce. So the most complicated, the most expensive is litigation. You hire an attorney, he or she hires an attorney, and off you go to court. The next most complicated and expensive is called the collaborative divorce, where you hire an attorney, he or she hires an attorney, you hire a mediator, and the 3 of you, now it's 5 of you, sit in a room, and now you may bring in a financial expert. That's now 6 of you in a room, or you may bring in a child, parenting expert. Again, that would be 6 of you in a room, and this can go on for months and tragically even years, because a collaborative divorce where there's no judge, there's nobody saying to the attorneys, stop! And there's also nobody saying to you and your spouse, stop. So I invented something that's a really pared down version. So in the divorce forum collaborative, there's you, there's your spouse, there's the mediator in the room. At the same time, you have legal advice outside of the room. You can call them anytime you want. You can meet with them anytime you want. You can have parenting experts outside the room. You can have financial experts outside the room. You can have mental health experts outside the room. You can have anybody you want outside the room. You bring the reports back. You consider what your attorneys have taught you. But in the room, it's just you and a mediator peacefully discussing your options. So in a very short period of time, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, and rarely months, you're going to get a written marital settlement agreement, the MSA, and you're going to be done, filed. And some states there's a waiting period, some states there's not, and so you are in business. And I do this with people all over the world. It's not just something that I do in America.
Yes, what a peaceful way to go about it, for sure. Healthier, peaceful. Thank you, Susan. Now, I can see that it's time. We're going to go into a clip. This is with our favorite guy, one of them, and this is Reverend Bernard Goodman. He's going to be talking with Candace, and we'll see what he has to offer. We'll be back for more.
To Donna. Now we're going to tell you why we call her the Candy Lady. Now her name is Heath, so that would justify the Candy Lady, but the real reason we call her the Candy Lady, and of course Bernard never knew this before, is because she's so sweet. You know, just one finger in coffee, you don't need sugar. So she's just a sweetheart, and the sweetheart that she is gives life to people. Look what she did to Blondie over there. So it's like her love, wherever she goes, her love goes with her. And it just gets shared with whoever is around her. And she's just a walking stick of love. So we're going to honor you. And we're going to come up with a good name. Oh, boy, are they sharp. We have a good name title for you. You ready? Candy on a Stick. You're God's candy on a stick. Tootsie Roll or whatever you want. You're God's candy on a stick. That's who you are. That's what you are. And you know something about candy? You can't resist candy. What Bernard has seen people do with candy at any age, you can't resist candy. There's candy on a dish. Someone's got to pick a piece of that candy. He saw that last night at the restaurant. Really interesting. So you are a candy dish of the gods. A walking stick, candy stick. So that's what you are, and we are honoring you for that, and we thank you for that, because if we had more like you, we wouldn't need, well, I can't change the words, manhole covers. Can I tell you? So, anyway, we just want you to know that. Hey, their words, what do I know? I don't know anything. Okay, is there anybody we haven't gotten to yet besides Susan? Linda! Pegasus lady. What did we tell you yesterday?
Lots of things.
Only stuff you can share in public.
Something was going to happen this summer.
Oh yeah, big time.
I was an empath.
Okay, good. Good. Okay. We're going to give you, yes, a title. Okay, we can call it a title. Yes, a title. We're going to give you a title, and it's called Empath to God. And that's why you are able to be an empath to humans and an empath to non-humans, and an empath to those which are and who are beyond planet Earth. So you are an empath to God. You have that ability now. What's going to be happening with you, oh boy, you're going to enjoy it in summer. What's going to be happening with you is you're going to begin to learn how to use that. Or maybe, yeah, how to use that. Even while it's using you, you're going to learn to use that. You're going to learn to become an empath, even remotely. Just as Tisha is going to be able to heal remotely, you're going to be able to empath remotely. Now, why would you need that? Let's see what that's going to do for you. or for the person who, okay. Now, we told you yesterday that the way an empath works is like radar. A beam comes out, hits off somebody, comes back, and you get whatever you get. We are not restricting this to only humans. Animals, vegetables, minerals. You can tell when a rock is in pain. You can tell when a leaf is crying. You can tell when an animal is hurting. All this kind of stuff. Now, being an empath is okay as far as the receptivity that goes with it. But then what do you do with it? Because you don't want to go around feeling everybody. It's not allowed. It's against the law. So, in some cultures, what an empath does, without being in charge of it, is draws the energy of the other person. Now, what's going to happen is you are going to draw the energy of the other person and send it straight up before it even reaches you. Okay? And what that does, it will extract that which is in pain for them at that moment. So you're going to be able to start seeing this. You're going to see the energy coming to you, and then it's going to go straight up. It's never going to touch you. It's never going to reach you. You're not to take it inside you, you're not to take it inside of you. It has to come towards you and go out straight up to God. And what will be extracted with that will be whatever's going on with that person that's not okay. Now, the difference between you and Tisha is Tisha will be sending healing energy. You will be extracting unhealing energy. And you can do this with anything on planet Earth. Anything that's on planet Earth that's living. Trees are living. And you'll also be doing this with those who live beyond planet Earth. And wait till they start landing here. So just be aware you chose that. Now the fact that you married, he's your husband, right? Like it or not? Okay. The fact that you married an architect allows him to architect a lot of the transmissions that are going to be coming to you. None of which he is in charge of, you understand. None of which any of you are in charge of any of this stuff. It's just going to be happening. He is actually building a rector set. You know what a rector set is? Rector set of journey, so that people who are suffering can get to you, your empathicness, and then be pulled up there and be released from whatever pain is going on through them, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, whether it's physical or metaphysical or emotional or whatever it may be. Most of it will probably be emotional stuff. So just be aware that anytime you see these things, and you'll be seeing this, by the way, seeing the energy coming to you, just get it straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up, never to reach you. What that does is it literally pulls out of them whatever's going on at the time that's not okay. At that very moment, it's not okay. Just be aware of that. So he's like building bridges for people to get to you. All right? Now these are people you don't have to know, and you don't even know where they are. Well, in a sense, you will know where they are. But you don't have to be where they are. And this could be anywhere in the world. Maybe even off the world. But you will see that energy coming to you, and remember, when it gets in front of you, just go straight up. Just send it right to God. And that'll be, I guess, your form, one of the forms of healing people, by extracting whatever's going on at the time. Now, if this were a comedy, or if you would be able to see, what would be funny would be all of a sudden these people will just change the way they are instantly and won't even know how they got there. Like 1 minute this lady at home in the kitchen is angry and screaming and yelling, and the next minute she's laughing. Don't even know why she's laughing. And she can't even remember why she was angry. That's the kind of thing, they're showing this to me. That's the kind of example of result that is going to occur with you. So we are honoring you. So you are now empath to God. To God. That's the key word. There's something else that you're going to be able to do. Remember, the more outrageous you're actually going to be able to stop train wrecks. I'm literally seeing you pulling the energy of a train that's going to be wrecked towards you and up, and it doesn't happen. Now I'm going to prove to you how real this is. Years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, but years ago, Bernard was involved with a bunch of people when allegedly an earthquake was supposed to destroy Mexico City. Bernard and other people said, no, what happened, the earthquake happened underneath the ground, never reached Mexico City, and Mexico City is still there. This really happened. This is real.
Howard and the
I
fires.
really appreciate, I know we both have something to say about that, but just the fact that if somebody is voicing in a way that we don't want to absorb, we don't need to, we're at choice. Oh, what a relief to hear that. What came up with you on this clip?
Yeah. And you know, when he was just saying, and there was no earthquake in Mexico City, I just wanted to remind you that I had called Howard Wills and I had asked him to work on the fires in Camarillo and Ventura and to do anything he could to make it rain. And it doesn't usually rain in Santa Barbara at this time of year. And I pay attention because this is my birthday week, so I notice it never rains my birthday week in Santa Barbara. And of course there was a lot of rain yesterday. And there was a lot of rain the day before. And it was in just that part, you know, Camarillo, Ventura, Malibu, that whole area, and I was thrilled. And now I believe the fires are fully contained. They're not out yet, but I believe they're fully contained.
What a birthday gift for you, huh? You can tell that was
Thrilling.
another one.
Thrilling. So we don't have control, but some of us have gifts, and some people we know have gifts. And that's what you want to do. You want to use the gifts that people have and motivate them in every way. That's really what divorce and marriage are all about, too. The ability to motivate people, right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Well, now back to the issue of divorce. I'm curious now for Susan's going to explain to us the divorce form and her collaborative model and how they work.
Well, you know, what's so interesting, because I explained the basics to you before the video, but mostly in solving a big life problem, it's about education. You know, there was a time when people did radical things when breast cancer was found. Now people do less and less with better and better results, right? You don't find women who are having large parts of their body removed the way it was. Very, very rarely. So what we're talking about here with the divorce forum collaborative model is creating peace without any kind of radical, expensive, extensive kind of action plan. Coming up with your preferred outcome. And if you read my book, either 101 Divorce Secrets, a Survival Guide, which gives you literally 101 divorce secrets from me and other divorce experts who are friends of mine, or whether you read my other book about divorce, which is The Merry-Go-Round, How to Save Your Money, Your Sanity, and Your Life, it's all about learning how to go with the flow, but little by little, move the situation in the direction you prefer. You know, how to lead the horse in the direction it's going. So if your husband wants sole custody and you want sole custody and you know that that's not possible, then the question is how to motivate and inspire him so that you get sole custody the times and ways that's important to you, and he gets it the times and ways that's important to him, and you keep the needs of the child in the forefront. Now, in a financial situation, if you know that at the moment you haven't been working in a couple of years and he's been working and supporting the whole family, but you know that in this day and age you're not likely to get lifetime spousal support. You know, even in long-term marriages in court, it's rarely given. So then you need to be intelligent and you need to discuss this with either a CPA specializing in divorce, which is a CPA specializing in dissolution, that's what it's called, or a certified divorce financial analyst who is also an accountant. Must also be an accountant. You're not looking for a financial advisor, how to manage your wealth. You're looking for how to split the assets intelligently. And I have a number of experts in all these different fields that I refer out. So you have to think very practically about how to consider where you are, consider where your spouse is, consider where the children are, and come up with a solution that's going to work for all of you. And of course, that's, so often how I can find outside the box solutions for people that they haven't seen before.
Absolutely. And in that state, it is so wonderful. They could be emotional, and they really need to stick with the facts.
Yes, absolutely true.
Focus.
Absolutely true. And so that's why it's all about data sharing. That first hour, about 20 minutes of the first free hour is you telling me just the facts, which is crucial.
Oh boy, so much going on there. Now, can you give us an example, let's say, of some woman who, let's imagine, was in the worst divorce situation, and how you ended up helping her and her two children?
Yeah, this was the most horrendous situation that I have been involved with, because she was in a custody battle in 2 states simultaneously. So she had lived in Virginia, and her husband was suing her for custody of the children in Virginia. So she had to get a Virginia attorney, and he got a Virginia attorney. But she had already moved with his permission to Connecticut. And so he was also suing her for custody of the children in Connecticut. And at the time that I met her, she was desperate and devastated. Not only, you can imagine the cost of 2 simultaneous custody battles. I mean, it's unimaginable. But in addition to that, neither of her attorney was handling it in a way that I consider appropriate. So I had to teach her how to manage her attorneys. The first thing you do when you consider hiring an attorney is you say to the attorney, before I decide if I'm going to go ahead with litigation, before I decide if you're my attorney, I really need to know what the case law is. I need to know how you're thinking of winning this. I need to know what the statutes are. I need to know what what are the other divorces that are similar to mine, and in this state and in this county in the last 3 to 5 years. What was the outcome? I need to see what the legal precedents are. You're just not going to wisely give a stranger $10, $15, $20, $25,000 of your money without first confirming that this person has a leg to stand on and that your case has a leg to stand on. So it's much smarter if you say to the attorney, I'd like to pay you for 3 or 4 hours of research. Please have your paralegal research this scenario that I've just described to you and show me how you're going to win this. Because I hate to tell you the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls I've gotten from people who said they paid their attorney promised them the moon, and they got nothing. And let me tell you, my first attorney in my second divorce got me nothing, and I replaced him. It was inexpensive. It was quick. My second attorney in my second divorce got me nothing, and I spent an enormous amount of money. I'm talking about over $100,000. And he lied. He just lied. That's how I became an expert. I had to save my life. So you can really trust that my motive is legitimate.
Absolutely. Oh, Susan, that's so important. So many people don't even know what information they need to get.
Exactly. Now, the happy news with this woman is it was so expensive for her to have these 2 attorneys. I said, the smart move for you is to go to the law library in Connecticut, get the facts yourself, stop paying for the attorney to do whatever he's supposed to be doing. He really wasn't doing anything. Get the facts, get the case law, get the legal precedents, take that, print it out, get it printed out, take it to the attorney, and then discuss it. And do the same thing with the law library in Virginia. She did that, and she got her children back. She had her children with her for Christmas. She sent me this fabulous photo. Everybody's wearing reindeer ears,
Oh.
And she said, "You saved my children." Just by telling me what to do, just by leading me through it and guiding me and supporting, she said, I saved her children. So that's the best story, right?
That is.
Best story ever.
Oh, I'm proud of you. What a contribution. A
you,
happy
dear.
family.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. And he was a very dangerous husband, so he was out of the picture now. Yes, hallelujah.
Okay, let's explore this. What about a man, let's say, who is really afraid that he would never be with his daughter again? And what did you help him with?
Now, I want to make sure you understand. This was a dangerous woman. So I don't want you to think that I'm telling stories about, only men who are bad or whatever. It is, it isn't that. We have some bad people, right? They're just people who you wish you hadn't married and you need to get away from, and you need to do it in a peaceful way, and you need to know that the children are safe. So in this case, this was a lovely, lovely guy. He was a doctor and he was a Harvard graduate, so he was just a very, very smart, very hardworking, very, very decent guy. And he made a very bad choice in the woman that he was dating, and he ended up with a pregnancy and a marriage. And it was a really bad scenario. And she told him in many different ways that she was going to take him to the cleaners and that he was never going to see his daughter again. Well, luckily, the law doesn't support this kind of, venomous behavior. The law doesn't support this kind of threat and, this kind of hostage situation with children. But I taught him how to speak to her in a peaceful, calm way, because she had already threatened police action. She had already accused him of domestic violence, and he had done nothing. And I was absolutely clear that he had done nothing. I'd spoken to him a lot. I knew a lot about him. And I was very clear that she was doing this to try to have a case against him, to try to win the full custody of the child, which wasn't really what she wanted. She was never a very involved mother. But, if you get full custody, you get more money, tragically. You get more money, and a lot of parents, sadly, want that. They want the money, and they'll take the child in order to get the money. So I just kept him calming her down. I made sure that every time she picked a fight with him over the phone, that he was calm, and she ended up being calm. And they worked out an arrangement, and he got joint custody. It was completely fair financially. And for everybody involved, it was a miracle. I mean, it was just a miracle.
So that turned out to be a win-win.
Yes, win-win-win, because there was one daughter.
Oh.
So everybody won. It was great.
Oh, God, I was going to say thank you, but thank you for that.
Yeah. It was fabulous.
That's awesome. Well, okay, what about some people who have had the horrible divorce and they end up suffering for years, and also they really do believe that they will never get over it. Very sad story, but how do you go about helping them?
Well, the best story I have about that is a couple who were having me do their mediation. And she came from another country and moved to California. And she was just enraged about some bills that her husband had that she didn't know about, and that she felt so terrified and so angry that he had kept this from her, and that she now wanted to divorce him because of these bills. And she just kept saying, I never should have gotten married, I'm never going to get married again, I'm never, I mean, she just was so furious. And it was a little thing. I mean, it was $20,000, I think. It wasn't a huge amount of money, and he was running a very successful business. So when they came together in mediation with me, the first thing, obviously, I had to do was I had to make sure that this guy was going to be 1,000% responsible for this debt, which was a debt that predated the marriage. And he immediately said, of course. So it was just interesting. What must have happened in their house, in their home, is she must have accused him and fought with him and like all this crazy stuff,
Yeah.
And so he said, no, of course I will. And then she accused him, oh, but you won't mean it. I said, well, this is all going to be filed with the court system. So there's no, two ways about it. He's going to sign and you're going to sign it. It's going to be filed in court. And, you have some recourse after that. She started to relax. At that point, we had basically solved the biggest issue of the whole marriage, because it was a short-term marriage. They didn't own a house. There were no children. So it was an easy thing. I mean, it was an easy fix, right? But they just seemed like such a cute couple. And he was such a great, talented guy. And they just looked great together. And once she stopped being angry, it was an amazing thing. She did want me to go through with the divorce filing, which we did, because she was just that concerned about this debt. The $20,000 actually was so upsetting for her that she couldn't even think about love or marriage until that was resolved. And he didn't have the $20,000 at that moment to pay it off. So she really wanted to get a divorce. But the beauty of this is that 3 weeks after the divorce was final, they started dating again. They started going out to dinner. They started to have like a new relationship.
So they cleared that issue up.
Yes, yeah. And this is not the first time this has happened with clients of mine. I've seen this a couple of times.
Oh, so they got through that obstacle. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. In fact, I had a client who insisted on getting a divorce because she had this boyfriend. And everything she told me about the boyfriend made me feel really worried about this guy. You know, her husband was a really nice stand-up guy, a very dependable, very solid, monogamous guy with a good career, and her boyfriend was the opposite. So, you know, it's easy for me to say, right? Because I've got a distance. So I could say to her, I'm really worried. But she insisted. She lived with the boyfriend. She stayed with the boyfriend for a while. She divorced her husband. She insisted on divorcing her husband. But tragically, I didn't want to be right, but unfortunately, after a few months, she realized that the boyfriend was no good. She broke up with him. Now she wants to go back to the husband. She does go back to the husband, and she calls me, and she says, now, all the things that I didn't want you to teach me before about how to really get along with my husband and really make peace and all those things, now you have to teach me all this stuff. So it's okay, great, sign me up. So we did. We taught her, and now they're happily married.
Oh, and that's happy
Yes.
for you too,
Yes,
right?
it's like,
Yeah,
wow.
so good.
Yeah.
Well, in the couple of minutes that we have left, I know that much of your work you do is preparing someone to have a great relationship and marriage. And what do you do for your clients before they get married?
Perfect. So the very first thing you have to really master is the 6-part conversation. You need to be able to do this. I don't care if you're on a date with a guy and you met him on Match.com and he looks fabulous and he's got the whole life that you're dreaming of. If you're not able to really finesse for information from this guy on your first date, or really in your first telephone conversation, then you have to go through that excruciating trial and error that we used to have to do in the era before internet dating. Trial and error takes too much time, it's too painful, and whoever's paying for these dates, it's too expensive. So you want to really learn to identify what you're looking for and if that person has a high probability of being able to provide you with that. So in my pro dating system, I teach all these different skills about identifying profiles, writing your profile, seeing what's the red flag and what's the green flag on your profile, identifying the same thing on the phone, in person. And one of my favorite examples was this guy that I worked with a few years ago. He was a certified mediator. And what was amazing is he couldn't get anyone to respond to the emails. I rewrote his emails and taught him how to do it, and 26 out of 27 women agreed to go on a date with him. From 0 out of 27 to 26 out of 27.
Susan, you give everybody hope that maybe does not have the hope.
Yay!
And I thank you so much for the opportunities that exist, even in the most difficult marriages and divorce. I know you've said every divorce is a hero's journey. And I'd just like to mention to our viewers that you've also launched 2 Facebook fan pages, and so that they have links to many of our shows. And one is, of course, called Susan Allan Heart Space, and the other is called Susan Allan Sales Forum. So you can explore, take a look at that. Thank you so much,
Thank
Susan.
you. It's great.
It's very informative again. And I'd just like to now reflect that we're in our 8th plus year here on our show. And I certainly appreciate your enjoyment and lovely comments. I'm blessed to have so many wonderful guests. And we are here every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. and several times throughout the week. You can check that out. And I'd just like to suggest you're more than welcome to give us a call, 698-8233, thank you, and an email, ggmorcox.net. And also, I'd just like to say you can check out compassionateconnection.com. And now, Susan's Enjoy the Family Life magazine. This is something, Ask the Love and Relationship Coach, of course, this is our girl. And that's available online as well. And Susan can be contacted at 805-695-8405. And you can also, Susan Allan at Susan at susanallan.org. And the other website is thedivorceform.com. So susanallan.org, and there you go. You can have your answers taken care of. Now,
Avoid disaster.
hopefully that's the big one. And our next show, we will have our guest, Dr. Robert Mathis. It will be focused on emotions. Of course, we're all familiar with that, emotions. So it will be informative, of course, as well. I would just like to say thanks to everyone here at the studio, Matt, Mark, JP, Oscar. We have such gratitude for them cooperating with us in a peaceful manner. And of course, our personal TV family, our director, Fred Winter, who we couldn't do the show without. We love you, Fred, for putting up with us. No. And Tyler Gett, what a joy on our audio support. And I appreciate our show contributing, Dr. Mark Dreblow, and our various sponsors. One is I Love Lucy, Lucia Salon. You can check her out. She'll make you feel like $1 million like she does for me. And I wish all of you many inescapable compassionate connections. Good evening, and thank you for joining us.